right, here we go. Hi, Sanctuary fam. Okay, so I am so sorry for disappearing on you guys like I just did, but I'm back now, officially back, and I want to update you guys on everything that's been going on. And I apologize in advance if this video is maybe slightly depressing or not our usual content. I definitely know that so many of you guys come to our page for the positivity and the joy that these animals provide, and I promise that as soon as this video is over, we will get back to that, starting with a morning routine tomorrow, our new morning routine here, and a tour of our new space and updates on all the animals and updates on the projects and all of that. But first, it's been a while and so much has happened. So I want to start by saying thank you so much for your patience while we work through one of the hardest struggle periods of my entire existence. Nothing I have ever experienced in my lifetime has been as hard as what we've been going through this past few months, this past year, just because it wasn't just me going through it this time. This time I had over 200 lives depending on me. This time it was so much bigger than me. The only way that I could possibly sum up my experience this past year would be like with that one meme with the dog drinking a cup of coffee while his house is burning down and he's surrounded by all the flames, but he's still sitting there calmly, just drinking his coffee, saying, "This is fine. I'm fine." And like, that is exactly how life has felt for me lately. So first we took in 2 horses from another rescue because the owner of the rescue was going through the end stages of cancer and desperately needed someone to take in an elderly special needs horse that would have been euthanized if nobody took her in, and her buddy. And I was so connected because of the cancer and the 2 incredibly important people that I recently lost due to cancer that I just felt in my heart that I had to take them in. And also because I could understand how the previous rescue founder must have felt during the end stages of her life, having to worry about finding someone to take in those animals that she had taken in that nobody else wanted. And I just wanted to help relieve that stress for her and let her leave this world knowing that her rescues ended up in a safe place. So we took in 2 horses, and then immediately after, a pig was found roaming the streets in our new neighborhood here, and there isn't a single rescue or shelter around here to take pigs in, and this little pig reminded me so much of Wilbur with this super spunky but totally sweet personality that just beams out of her, and I couldn't say no, knowing that there was no one else that would take her in. And then we got a phone call from someone that stopped traffic on the highway to rescue 2 little baby kittens that were so young that they still needed to be bottle fed. But every shelter around here turned them away because all the shelters here seemed to be full, and they needed immediate help, due to their age and not having their mom, and there was no one. So we said yes. And then a few weeks later, we got a phone call from someone who had 2 wild goats that were roaming their neighborhood for almost a year. And one of the neighbors finally got tired of it when one of the goats dug through their trash and made a mess, and they shot and they killed one of the goats, leaving the second goat all alone, and afraid to leave their buddy's corpse. And there was no one else that would take this wild goat. So we did. And then the next week we ran into someone who was wanting to sell all their Angus cattle, all their cows to market because they needed to pay some bills. So a close friend volunteered to pay the amount that was needed so that we could save these cows' lives. And it meant so much to me to be able to save this entire cow family from auction. So we said yes. And I mean, we bit off a lot. And then almost every single thing that could go wrong went wrong, and things got really hard. So it started out with the storms. The storms here are super intense, causing destruction multiple times of structures that we just built. And then came the injuries. First the animal injuries, stitches, cuts, limping from stepping on shards of stuff buried in the ground that we're unearthing on our new property along the way. Then came the human injuries. First, just basic construction wounds, bruises, and cuts. I mean, you don't think too much of that. We're all working so hard. Of course, you're bound to get some injuries. But then those little injuries turned into like cracked ribs and rolled ankles and dangerous infections from cuts. And it was like one of us was getting a new injury every single day. And then aside from this crazy weather, this property has been wild. I mean, I'm talking fleas, lice, mites, ticks, termites. I mean, I'm gonna be a professional by the time that I'm done safely figuring out how to control almost 60 acres of parasites. But I mean, this is the woods and they were here first, but it has just been crazy to say the least. Um, and then things got even harder when a predator started coming around that took a couple of our chickens and roosters, and sadly, even that wild duck that we rescued from the eagle, that we went through great lengths to have our good friends with Waddle On In come and help get their leg amputated and rehabbed. And we never even got the chance to release him back into the wild, which we were just about to do when he was taken by another predator. And then things really took a turn for the worse. We had a few of the goats come down with an illness that we had no explanation for. The first one to become ill was Scout. She started out by being lethargic and was off balance, and she could barely stand, much less walk. So we rushed her to the emergency vet, and she was diagnosed with listeria, which is a life-threatening condition for animals that has up to a 30% chance of survival. So we began intensive antibiotics and 24/7 continuous care for Scout as we witnessed paralysis set in and seizures take over. And then the very next morning, we found Bubba down and unable to move, just like Scout was. So we had the vet come back out and treat Bubba. But sadly, later that day, Bubba had a seizure that he couldn't pull out of, and he passed away. So then we went into overdrive because listeria is an infectious disease caused by bacteria, and it's zoonotic, meaning even as human animals can get it, which is scary. And because it's a bacteria, there's just was endless possibilities of where it could have originated from. It could have been the feed, the hay, the soil, the water, a plant, a bush somewhere. So everything from that point just became biosafety measures and just going crazy trying to prevent cross-contamination while also decontaminating all the areas that had already been possibly affected. So we had to separate all of the animals individually because we didn't know who already had it and who was contagious. So we had to move everyone into temporary areas. We had to burn all of the grass everywhere. We had to burn all of the insides of the buildings and bleach everything down to kill all of the bacteria. I mean, we lost hundreds of dollars because we had to burn all of the feed and all of the hay because it could have come from any of those things, and we weren't sure. And we were told by so many people, veterinarians included, that we should put Scout down, that they had never seen a goat recover from listeria before, especially after being so far gone from the paralysis. Scout was literally paralyzed on half of her body and from the potential brain damage from all the seizures, but we knew that Scout is one of the strongest goats that we have ever seen, and if anyone could have a miraculous recovery, it would be her. So we just kept trying, doing everything that we possibly could for her. And so Scout was in a vegetative state, a completely vegetative state, for 12 days, and we spent every single second of those 12 days caring for her. Kevin and I even took turns sleeping in quarantine next to her to make sure to be there through every seizure during the night so that she didn't injure herself more. And miraculously, on day 12, Scout had a complete turnaround. She was up walking and running around all on her own, and now each and every day, Scout is getting stronger and showing more and more signs of improvement. She doesn't need any assistance getting up or walking around or eating or drinking anymore, which is so amazing. But unfortunately, you can definitely tell that she has suffered a little bit of permanent brain damage, and she probably won't ever fully be the same as she used to be, busting kneecaps as you walk by or breaking down the doors to get out of her house. But she's able to get around, eat, drink, do her own thing, and that is something that nobody thought she would ever do again. So it's just amazing. Um, but just as things seem to be starting to improve and turn around, Ren went down too. He went down a little bit differently than the others. Ren already had his ailments and his special needs, and he had been in and out of a wheelchair already before, and he had other prior things going on with him. So when he got sick, he just became completely paralyzed in all of his legs all at once. he couldn't move, and he was having multiple seizures every day, and overall just in poor shape. We had two separate vets come back out to evaluate Ren, and both of them told us that they believe that what Ren had, wasn't actually listeria, but in fact goat polio, which just, of course, made the whole entire situation even more maddening, not knowing exactly what was going on and exactly what was causing all of these deaths and sicknesses. And ultimately, we made Ren as comfortable as we possibly could, and we did everything that we could for him. But he passed away peacefully right next to all of us, underneath the trees. And losing Bubba and Ren has been really difficult for me. And I felt like, even though we have Scout and she's still here and I'm so grateful, I feel like when Scout lost her fiery spirit, that I lost some of my fire too. You know, no one ever talks about how it never gets easier. No matter how many animals you lose, like, it always hurts just as bad as the one before. And it's even harder when you have the obligation of sharing such difficult and hard things publicly with the world. And I'm sorry that I didn't have the strength or the courage to share all of it immediately, or to share all of the struggles that we've been going through trying to get back on our feet in our new home. And I truly, truly appreciate you guys letting me take the time to mourn, to break down, to just be quiet for a little bit before sharing everything with the world. And if you've made it this far in the video, then thank you for letting me vent right now. I love you guys, and we truly couldn't do what we do for animals without you, without your support. It's pretty crazy how life works, and our story is truly just beginning, and there's always a rainbow at the end of the worst storms, right? Well, I'm not done yet, because the day that Ren passed away, we were blessed and surprised with a beautiful new soul. One of those new cows that we just rescued, that I was just telling you about, surprised us with a baby calf, a beautiful girl. And I will be sharing all of the new rescues, and you'll get to meet them all. But I mean, talk about a roller coaster of emotions, right? Death and birth in the same day. In honor of Bubba and Ren passing, I wanted to plant a weeping willow tree on our property overlooking the lake. So for every animal that has passed, I always like to get a memorial wind chime for them. I love the meaning behind wind chimes, and so these weeping willow trees will allow me a beautiful spot to hang the wind chimes on. And the weeping willow signifies grief and mourning, but it's also said that the leaves represent the balance, the harmony, and the growth that we experience through the storms and life's challenges. The willow tree gives us hope for the future, but furthermore, it symbolizes the ability to let go of the pain and the suffering to grow new. One thing I know for sure is that throughout this crazy journey, I am constantly reminded that no matter how hard this path is, I know without a doubt in my mind that this is exactly where I should be. And this is what I was put on this earth for. And I just pray that the hard times are officially behind us, but tomorrow is a new start, and I am starting it by sharing everything with you, starting by sharing our new morning routine and introducing you to our new herd. So I'll see you tomorrow, and thank you, truly thank you, for being a part of our sanctuary family. See you tomorrow.